God for saving me. My soul cries out, hallelujah. I thank God, oh, I thank God. Oh, I thank God for saving me. I thank God for saving me. My soul cries out, hallelujah. I thank God for saving me. Amen. Brother Kuhneman, would you open us this morning?
Lord God, we pray that you'd open our hearts and our minds, Lord God, the thing that you would do here today, Lord God. We pray that your blessing would be upon us, and Lord God, and we would be instructed by you. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen. You can be seated. Sunday school can be dismissed. It's important. If we don't start on time, people won't come on time. And it's also important that we live stream the Sunday school so that people can lock into where we're at and what we're doing. And we do need people that will be here on time to help us in all of those arenas. So that's my beef for the day. Let's look at Hebrews 11:3. Somebody get that for us this morning. Hebrews 11:3. Ed, get that for us. 1 Corinthians 1, and we'll get a couple of verses there. 1 Corinthians 1, somebody else this morning, Cheppy, get that for us. And so we began last time, which was 2 weeks ago, with the introduction to a new Sunday school or Bible class, Truth and Faith. And so we began, I made the statement first, logic and reason do not represent the pinnacle of human intelligence, critical thinking, or wisdom. There isn't anything we do that is faith-free. You go to work by faith. That at the end of your work week or period, you will get a check. You go to Safeway and you buy the stuff, and you by faith believe that it's good stuff, not last year's Chinese rejects. Okay. And so that is an arena of faith. First, logic and reason do not represent the pinnacle of human intelligence or critical thinking or wisdom. They are not faith-free. Second, science is not the enemy of God. Instead, it is God's gift to humanity, a brilliant way to explore his stunning creation. And so we began thinking about a couple of critical questions that people don't really want to ponder very deeply. One, do you really believe the entire Bible? Do you really believe all of those events? Do you really believe all of those statements are God's directive to us or not? And secondly, do you believe that science can explain everything? And so it can't even explain you, let alone everything. So we want to look at these two scriptures, Hebrews 11:3.
Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear.
Okay, so here's an interesting statement. What you can see is not made of what you think. Are you with me? What you can see is not made of what it appears to be. And then 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 20 and 21. Okay. How about 2 Corinthians 1, 20 and 21? Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Through wisdom. Okay, and then verse 25. So these are some statements that will help us to lock our minds in to what I want to share with you today. Today's generation, I mentioned last week, there are two modern scholars who have left Darwin behind it. They are two among many. And if we look at the recent data, we can see not only that we've lost a whole generation of young people to the philosophies that are in the high school and college campuses, but many of those people were brought up in Christian homes and lived in Christian homes, and they will be quick to tell you it was too strict, it was too narrow, it was too this, it was too that, or their father was abusive, or their mother had a foul mouth, or they were hypocrites, or whatever. And at the same time, many young people are disillusioned about what they're learning in the college campus. I shared with you my friend committed suicide on the golf course of Redlands, University of California in Redlands, and before I could get out there and talk to him, he'd gotten involved with the philosophies of Bertrand Russell, Alfred North Whitehead, and Ayn Rand. And so these spun him out because they don't believe there's any absolutes. They don't believe there's anything that is in eternity. They don't believe anything like that. And so for many people, faith seems far away, seems very difficult to grasp, but the marvels of science you can pick up on your cell phone. Okay. You can do things today that you were not used to be able to do. And you can do them because of science. We have science. That's why we have vaccinations. That's why they're there. We got them through science. And the reality, that's why we were able to deal with measles and smallpox and pertussis, and we got the magic formula for getting your kids in school. And so two among many who've left Darwin behind. I rarely enter this arena because it's too many people are boneheaded. They don't care. It doesn't matter what you say about science. It doesn't matter what you say about God. Their mind is made up. And it makes me want to throw up sometime. But Neil Thomas was a philosopher, member of the British Rationalist Society, educated at Oxford, Munich, and Cardiff, professor at the University of Durham, which is a highbrow university in Europe, expert in languages, expert in the Enlightenment. And the Enlightenment is called the Age of Reason. The Age of Reason. He's an expert in that, and he came to a conclusion, having had to look again at Darwinism. He said, "I've been conned. It's a con job. It's a philosophical, logical con job." And the hostilities that have been raging since the 1860s between science and religion. The Templeton Prize is a big prize for somebody that writes on religious topics and science, huge $1 million prize. And he said that these things have been fermented or fomented by a dodgy dossier. And so dodgy is a good Australian word for it. It don't quite cut the mustard. And here's something that has been received in the modern generation, not by facts and figures, but more by osmosis. You just see it everywhere you go. When we went to Australia the first time, every national park we visited had a big signboard, and on it was an amoeba, and then a man, and all the gradations in between. And so it's just everywhere, and so people just kind of pick it up. He discovered that Darwinism reduces man from the pinnacle of creation. It's not the ultimate in creation, not the ultimate creature on the earth. Reduces him to something very much lower than apes and chimpanzees and cows. Don't hit a cow with your truck in India. The dumb cow doesn't know he's a god. He just walks out in the street. And so here's a reality. The other man was an East LA Hispanic, 7/8 Mexican, Cuban, and Spanish, and he questioned everything and became a scientific monk. And so graduated from UCLA, a Bachelor of Science in Physics and Math, went to Cornell, graduated as a physicist, 2,700 miles from home, left his family, left his friends, and left his upbringing in a Spanish Pentecostal church, Concilio Latino Americana, and it is the oldest independent Spanish-speaking religion or religious organization in North America. And so that's Mexico, Central America, part of Central America, and the U.S. and Canada. And two events triggered him. One was the announcement that the galaxies are not randomly scattered across the heavens, but there is a pattern to how they're scattered, how they're in the heavens, and it created questions. Basically, his question, how did that pattern come to be? If everything in evolution, everything in the scientific dynamic of our creation is random, the random accumulation of random mutations, how did we get a pattern in the universe? Where did it come from? What did it signify? He was on his way to doing from his PhD, graduating from Cambridge or from Harvard, on his way to Cambridge, and he stopped by a science exhibit and the Foucault pendulum, which if you've ever been in a museum, they usually have one, and it just always goes. And somebody says, does it ever have to be nudged? And he answered the question, ended up going on CBS as a science reporter, ABC, NBC, CNN, on and on and on and on. So what's at stake? Somebody get for us John 3:8, and we'll lock in again with what I want to say today. John 3:8. Somebody very quickly, Willie, get that for us. Shakespeare said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. I don't know how astute Shakespeare was, but he said a lot of smart things. John 3:8. So there's some things that are inexplicable. The change that you experience when you get saved is evidence of something blowing that you can't see. What happened when you got saved? Well, I got changed. I was changed. How did that happen? Well, I was changed. God did a miracle in my life. Flabbergasting news is about the universe, and I mentioned last week that Albert, our friend Einstein, is not just making bagels in Phoenix, but he has established the general theory of relativity, which smart people within a few years said, wait a minute, it don't work that way. In the smallest regions, in terms of light And in terms of quantum physics, the general theory of relativity doesn't work. And so Einstein came up with the special theory of relativity. And they work in two different arenas, and they don't work together. They don't fit together. There are two equations that don't fit together. And that's science. So in the realm of quantum mechanics, quantum atomic powers and forces, it's the special theory of relativity. And in the realm of just all the planets and you and I spinning around in the moon and all those things, gravity, it's the general theory of relativity. But the two theories don't fit together. So somebody get for us John 14:6. Barb, get that for us. Hebrews 11:3 we already read. And so this is our second lesson. And so the graphic questions, do you believe the entire Bible? Really? And do you think science can explain everything? John 14:6.
Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Okay, I am the way, the truth, and the life. We're talking about truth and faith. And so, and in Hebrews, the things that are made are not made of what appears. So the two questions, you believe the entire Bible, do you believe science can explain everything? They kind of formulate, or they kind of put boundaries on your world view. Your world view determines how you're going to survive every crisis in your life. Your world view determines how you'll handle and survive the issues of your life, determines the strategies that you use to accomplish the aims of your life. Your worldview determines whether you'll survive and find your eternal destiny in Jesus Christ or split hell wide open. Your worldview determines those issues. And what I want to show you is the critical nature of what we believe and how it affects the circumstances we face in life. When we begin to ponder that, then we need to begin to look at the differences of science, atheism, and Christianity. And so what we want to do is we want to kind of formulate a table that has those three things across the top of the table: science, atheism, and Christianity. And in the first row across underneath that, I want to talk about absolutes. Absolutes. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Does it say that? Is that what it says? That sounds fairly absolute, doesn't it? Revelation 4:11, you are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. And one of the most well-known scientific discoveries, anecdotally it comes to us, is Isaac Newton sitting under an apple tree and snoozing, I suppose, as he reflected on his geometry. Apple fell off the tree and hit him in the noggin. And he went, Eureka! Gravity. Okay, so I don't know if all of that's true, but there was a heavenly dimension and a terrestrial dimension in his way of thinking at that time. The heavenly dimension was perfect in every respect. Here on planet Earth, everything lower than the moon, was a mess. And it fit with their philosophy that flesh is totally evil, but soul is completely good, and we can't wait to die and get rid of this burden of flesh so we can enter heaven and be perfect. Okay, that's kind of the way they thought. Everything was imperfect, much like our flesh. It's considered corrupted and eventually to be done away with. The worlds were going to pass away. And the heavenly realm was incorruptible and governed by an incorruptible element. They didn't want to claim it was God. When Newton elucidated gravity as a universal part of the universal universe, it was stunning and revolutionary. And it was stunning because it really began to explain how the motion of the heavens operated. We get the word planet from the Greek word planis, which means wanderer. And so if you pay much attention to the heavens at night, they all, if you look at the North Star, the entire heavens rotates around the North Star. You can see pictures, time-lapse pictures, and they're all this, every star is made a line in a circle. Every one. Except the planets. They don't line up with any, they go where they go in an ellipse around the sun. Not the North Star, but the sun. Not a point out in space, but the sun. And so they're called planets or wanderers, is one of their dynamics. Gravity is a universal force. When Newton elucidated gravity as a universal part of the entire universe, it was revolutionary. And there's only one gravity. My gravity is the same as your gravity. No one has a unique gravity. Some have more gravity, but they don't have a unique gravity. Okay? And so you probably would learn it in school. Force, gravitational force, the force of gravity is a gravitational constant that never changes, times the mass of one body times the mass of the second body divided by the square of the distance between their centers. So you can learn that in high school. You can forget it promptly as soon as you get out of high school. You'll never have to use it again. Never have to compute the gravitational force of you being attracted to your lover. It's a different force. Hopefully it's not a farce. If you jump off the Empire State Building, you are going down. That's it. You are going down, accelerating at 32 feet per second per second. That's an absolute truth. And you will smack on the sidewalk and end your life. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or Muslim. Gravity works. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Doesn't matter what race you are. Gravity is going to operate on you. Doesn't matter if you're human or an elephant. You're going down. You are being pulled down toward the center of the earth's mass always. It's universally true, absolutely true. Anytime it's true, anywhere it's true, anyone it's true. I remember I mentioned last week there are two laws that everything conforms to. One's the general relativity and one's special relativity. And the famous equation E, energy, equals mass times the speed of light squared, depends on the speed of light. And we found hundreds of years of experiments on how fast the speed of light is. It travels at 1.07 billion kilometers per hour. Or, if you're a Westerner, 299,792,458 meters per second, or about 670,616,629 miles per hour. That's the way it is. That's the way it was September 1st, 2016. It don't change. It's an absolute. We hear the statement about God, prove it. Think of this statement. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. That's what he said. Truth is bigger than proof. You ask me how I know he lives? He lives within my heart. Prove it. Die. I'll dissect you and take your heart out, and I'll analyze it, and I'll never find God in there. How do you know? Another way to say that is that science never proves anything. Hasn't science proven that evolution is true? No. Science never proves anything. And actually our study of AI kind of tuned us up for this because a computer cannot take every single possibility and compute it without crashing. What is proof in science? Anybody? What constitutes proof? Barb? Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want to jump in here? Anybody else want to prove that you graduated from Globe High? Anybody? So, science depends on experiment. Okay. And it depends on repeatable experiments. How many of you remember thalidomide? Anybody remember the thalidomide crisis? It's an anti-nausea medicine given to pregnant women who then gave birth to grotesquely deformed babies. It was it was horrible. And they went and looked at the guy that put that out in the medical journal, as this is helpful, and they discovered that his data was fudged because other doctors began to say, hey, I gave my patient this, and this is what happened, and it began to add up until finally they took him off the market. He actually left America and went to Australia, started another program there, and they caught him fudging his data there. Okay, so science depends on repeatable experiments. Anybody know what the limitation is on that? What is it? A lot of events cannot be repeated. What else? Funding. Something far more profound. Right, okay. So they try to extrapolate from guinea pigs to humans, or from chimpanzees to humans, or backwards they want to go. So science cannot do every single event to its nth degree. Let me say it differently. You put two chemicals in a test tube, and it comes out a certain way. Do it again and again and again and again. You cannot physically do it every single time that's possible. can't do it. You can't. It's impossible. So every experiment is repeatable to a n or nth number of times. But you do not know the next time you do it if it'll come out different. Now, I want you to ponder that, because that's a mind bender, because people are so enamored with science, they're able to prove everything. Science only gives you probability. It can only give you probability. We did the experiment this many times. This is how it came out. And so when you're in a science program, one of the horrendous classes that you have to take is statistics. Statistics, probabilities, and error. Error. I don't know how it is now, officer, but it used to be that the radar would give you miles per hour plus or minus so many, because it wasn't that accurate. You now see in scientific publications a chi-square or a probability statement about what they think. That is exactly that, probability. It's exactly the dynamic that this is what we really think will happen if we do this again. That's why vaccinations are effective to a percentage. Okay? If you recover from COVID, you will have this chance of totally recovering. And then this amount of chance of getting it again and again and again and again and again. So any question right here, because I know I'm leaving you in a fog, but this is really critical. Barb.
You can never get when you're doing experiments, you can never get everything exact like the first time you did it.
Okay.
I mean, the amounts could be off by a drop.
Mm-hmm.
The humidity can be different.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of light, but you don't know what's going to be different.
Right. That's because we're clumsy. Okay. The point I'm making is you can never do all the experiments possible. You can never do them all. Okay, so you cannot put in a test tube every single case. It's a guy named Gödel who proved the Incompleteness Theorem. It has a very long and lengthy formulation. It's proven mathematically. I'm going to talk about math later on in the class. But it's like Heisenberg, uncertainty principle. And he said the mere fact that we observe or take a measurement of an electron changes it. You can never know the speed of the electron and the location of the electron at the same time, because your observational error affects it. Now, those are well known in science. And one of the reasons I rarely enter this arena, because people look at you with crossed eyes when you start talking this way. The uptake is that science does not prove anything. It gives us probability, which is why science has never, ever proven evolution or anything else. Science has never proven evolution. Have they proven change through time? Yes. Look at your face in the mirror and look at your father's face. You changed. Okay? Oh, that's evolution. That proves it. If we get enough changes like that, pretty soon you'll be an ape. And, a friend of ours sent a tune from Greece, a dance from Greece, and plugged my picture and my wife's picture into it and sent it to us. And I may be as skinny as Travolta was then, but I ain't doing those kind of moves. What did we say with AI? What's the problem with AI? Given enough years, they might be able to do all the calculations. But who said we had that many years? And many of you have managed by overloading your computer to crash it. Freeze it up. Stop, too much, I'm not doing it anymore. And you have to reboot it. So in the square, if you're filling out a matrix here, underneath science and underneath absolutes, put true. Under Christian are there absolutes. God created. Put true. Are there absolutes in Christianity? Yes. If you reject Jesus Christ, you're going to split hell wide open. Is there a heaven and a hell? Yeah, there are absolutes in Christianity. The soul that sins will die. Okay? There are absolutes. They're there. So under Christianity, put yes. Under atheist, put no. Atheists do not believe in absolutes. Everything is relative. Everything's relative. Go ahead, Carol. No. They may say that when they're arguing with a Christian or something, but they don't believe that. It depends on who you is. They never named God. So that's before the Enlightenment. That's ancient Greek, Roman, and then a bunch of other stuff in the Dark Ages where they believed that. Coming out of that, then they had the universal truth of gravity. Somebody else had their hand up. Who had their hand up? Somebody? Any other question or comment here? Ed. Who? Mm-hmm. Well, all that means is if you yell then, nobody will hear it. It's behind you. You keep accelerating until the friction of your body, as you get closer to the earth, gets greater because there's more air there and slows you down a bit, but not enough. Well, if you do it, Ed, we'll watch you on live stream. That's the way you're going, down, toward the center of the earth. Isn't that the issue with all the spacecraft? You have to push it high enough to escape the Earth's gravitational force. And still, going round and round the Earth, they slow down and eventually come back. Okay? So pray that doesn't happen to the moon, and we'll be in good shape. Okay. Truth is bigger than proof. And so put that in there. Atheists, no absolutes. Everything's relative. There's nothing absolute. In the box that says Christian, you put, are there absolutes? Yes, there are. God said. Are all men created equal? It's self-evident. We founded a whole nation on those truths. Is it true? Well, sadly, we're not all equal. We're not a clone. Thank God we're not a clone. I couldn't stand it if you were all a clone of me. I could not bear it. I couldn't handle it. Get out of my face. Get away from me. Are there truths that transcend logic? Are there truths that transcend logical parameters? Aristotle is the guy that's famous for logic. He's the guy that wrote the book on logic. And they cannot be proven. They transcend the pedestrian reasoning of the simple person. And if you want to know who that is, read Proverbs. Is the earth designed for life? British cosmologist and astronomer Sir Martin Rees is an atheist. And he once declared, I've got no religious beliefs at all. He wrote a book called Just 6 Numbers. In that book, he established the 6 vital issues for life to exist on planet Earth. So he's not approximating, he's not guessing or anything like that. He's established it mathematically. 6 vital issues for life to exist on planet Earth. And so he stated exactly the values for life to exist on Earth. Not just human life, but life. All organic life. For that to exist on planet Earth. And so we've talked about a number of these before. The specific gravity of water, that water freezes at a particular temperature, and when it does, it expands because of the way the molecule is oriented, and it expands, and so ice floats. Right? All of you discovered that? You discovered that. Ice floats. Okay? That's important. It's important if you ever want to fish again. If ice sinks, everything's destroyed on the bottom of the lake, including the fishes, because they don't swim on top of ice. You're looking at me weird. The elements of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and there's another one in there, are perfectly designed. If they're at all different, we can't exist. If they're at all different, very different, nothing can exist. Even if they find a hydrogen sulfide bacteria down in the deepest clefts of the deepest ocean, these things are all established. Well, he had one called Lambda. Looks like an upside down V, and I don't think he was a queer. But Lambda is an enormously improbable number. It's not accidentally there. It's the speed at which the universe is expanding outward. Scientists used to tell us the age of the universe and whether life was possible. But one way to explain this chance of lambda being the number it is one chance in a trillion, 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 trillion. 1 times 10 to the 20, 120. 1 times 10 to the 120. 1 point and 120 zeros. How do the scientists get around that? They just say, hey, there's a lot of universes out there, and there's a lot of planets, and there's a lot of places. There's just a lot of universes possible. Lots of them. Just theorize there are more universes than we've ever seen. That's why they've got the new telescope up there, because it can see past what Hubble has seen. And if it can see past what Hubble has seen, it will see 95% more dark matter and dark energy and few pinpoints of light way far out there that they say that we can go all the way back to the beginning of the universe. Lee Smolin at Canada's Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics says the multiverse theory has difficulty making any predictions and threatens to take us out of the realm of science. Not talking about science anymore. We're talking about wishful thinking. We're talking about magical arts. And he says that most of these so-called universes are not visible. Most of you know that our eye only picks up certain radiations of light, right? Okay, so they're not visible to us. Sabine Hossenfelder at Frankfurt Institute for Advanced Studies says, without making contact observations, without making actual, I see it observations, a theory isn't useful to describe the natural world. And she says it's not part of natural science and not physics anyway. Decades of trying to come up with communications from other universes when we can't even see 95% of our own universe, have never found anything. No one has ever come up with a workable experiment to test the idea that there are habitable universes. On the other hand, it's remarkable, extraordinarily remarkable, fabulously remarkable that we have life on earth. Winning the lottery once or twice is remarkable, but 6 times over is no remarkable. You're cheating. We are in a privileged subset of all possible universes, one that is tailor-made for us. So in the box next to is designed for life. You can say yes to science. Science proven that says that we are designed for life. Next to Christian, you can put, or under Christian, you can put yes. This earth is designed for life. God created man, put him on the earth in the garden. And to the atheist, you can say no. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Why did he say that? Because he's corrupt. Because he's done abominable iniquity. And there's none who does good. Any question or comment? Are we giving you a snow job this morning, Carol? Can't snow, Carol. You're not evil. No. People that live without God have no reason, rhyme or reason, for life to make sense. It's what they say all the time. This don't make sense. They say it all the time. Unfortunately, us Christians say that too. This don't make sense. In the overall picture of my life, you know, I was born, I grew up, I was educated poorly, and then I came to living life, and then something happened. What happened? You had a good job, then you lost it. What happened? You had a car accident. What happened? The baby died. What happened? Something happened. And then all of a sudden, life makes no sense. If there's no end game, it makes no sense. If there isn't a goal, if there isn't an end, if there isn't a place that we're going to arrive, if there isn't something that our life is going to, so what is our generation filled with? Suicide. Ed. Yeah. Until you get arthritis and can't dance no more. Then you got to go buy an island in the Pacific and sit there and vegetate. Makes no sense, Willie. Let the kids in. That's right. Yeah. Life as we know it is as we know it. Entropy. It all winds down. Like me. I'm winding down right now. So we'll continue next week. Keep your little chart if you're making one, and we'll finish filling it out. Design for life, yes. Does science prove anything? No, but there are absolutes. Chippy. That's right. It's a leap of faith. Science requires faith, I'm telling you, and so you'll find that out. And God will help us in this Sunday school. I am taking a leap of faith to even move in this dimension, but we'll figure it out. God will help us. Lord bless. Next week.